400 hours, Second Thomas Shoal, West Philippine Sea. The rusting hull of the grounded transport ship groans against the shifting tide. Heavy fog rolls across the dark water, obscuring the horizon in a thick gray veil. Inside the makeshift command center, humidity drips from exposed wiring. A lone electric fan rattles on a desk, pushing warm air across the faces of sleeping Marines. The smell of salt water and diesel fuel permeates the cramped quarters. The ocean laps gently against the corroded steel plates of the vessel's hull. A sentry on the upper deck squints into the gloom. He wipes condensation from his thermal binoculars. A faint hum vibrates through the metal grating beneath his boots. It grows louder. He raises the optics again. Green phosphorescent shapes cut through the mist. They are not fishing boats. They move in a V formation, sleek and predatory. The sentry screams a warning. A tracer round tears through the night. It punches through the sentry's shoulder. He spins and crashes onto the rusted deck. The general alarm blares, a harsh mechanical shriek that wakes the dead. Marines tumble from their bunks, grabbing assault rifles and helmets in the dark. Heavy machine gun fire rakes the side of the grounded ship. Bullets spark against the rotting iron. Showers of rust and hot metal spray into the sleeping quarters. A rocket-propelled grenade screams out of the fog. It slams into the communications mast. The metal twists and shears off. Fire erupts. Black smoke instantly chokes the narrow corridors. Marines scramble up the ladders. They shout commands over the roar of incoming fire. The enemy fast attack crafts circle the reef like sharks. They unleash another volley. High-caliber rounds chew through the sandbags on the gun deck. A Marine gunner takes a hit to the chest plate. The impact throws him backward into the ammunition crates. The lieutenant kicks open the door to the bridge. He grabs the radio handset. He screams "Contact front" into the static. He orders the heavy machine gun team to suppress the starboard side. Blood pools on the iron walkway. The communications mast hangs by a single cable, swinging dangerously in the wind. The sound of engines roars closer as the enemy boats prepare to board. 4:15 hours, main deck, besieged Outpost. Orange flares sputter on the wet steel, casting long, dancing shadows. The roar of the boat engines below mixes with the sharp crack of rifle fire. Thick, acrid smoke from the burning mast rolls across the deck plates. It stings the eyes and obscures the enemy approach. 3 steel grappling hooks clang against the rusted railing. The ropes pull taut instantly. Dark figures vault over the bulwark. They move with lethal precision. The lead commando raises a suppressed submachine gun. He fires a burst. 2 defending Marines crumple near the hatch. The defenders rally. A sergeant screams a command. He levels his assault rifle and sprays the boarding party. Bullets spark against the commando's body armor. One attacker falls backward over the rail, splashing into the dark sea. The fight spills into the narrow interior corridors. Space is tight. There is no room to maneuver. A commando kicks in a bulkhead door. A Marine swings a rifle butt. It smashes into the attacker's helmet visor. The plastic shatters. The commando lunges. A combat knife flashes in the red emergency light. It plunges into the Marine's shoulder armor. They grapple. They slam against the peeling walls. Pipes burst overhead. Steam hisses violently into the hallway, scalding skin. The lieutenant crouches behind an overturned table in the mess hall. He fires his pistol at the doorway. He signals his men to form a defensive line. He yells for the radio operator to keep broadcasting. A grenade bounces into the room. It rolls across the linoleum floor. A young private dives on it. The explosion is muffled but powerful. It lifts the soldier off the ground. Dust and debris rain down from the ceiling. The lights flicker and die. Total darkness engulfs the ship. 4:30 hours, Combat Information Center, U.S. destroyer. The room bathes in a low, tactical red glow. Radar screens hum with a hypnotic, rhythmic pulse. Officers hunch over glass displays, their faces illuminated by the green sweep of data. The air conditioning vents hiss, battling the heat generated by the server banks. A sonar operator adjusts a dial with practiced, steady fingers. The ship glides through the black water, silent and ghost-like. A piercing digital screech erupts from the communication console. It slices through the quiet. The comms officer presses his headset against his ear. He freezes. He types a command. A jagged waveform spikes on the main screen. He turns to the captain. His voice cuts the room. Broken arrow. Coordinates confirmed. Friendly forces overrun. The captain grips the railing of the command chair. He leans forward. General quarters, this is not a drill. Flank speed. The general quarters alarm bongs rhythmically. The sound pulses through the steel bones of the ship. Rotating red lights sweep the gray passageways. Sleeping sailors jolt awake. They roll out of triple-tiered bunks. Feet hit the deck. Boots stomp on metal grating. They sprint through the corridors, buttoning uniforms and grabbing helmets. Watertight doors slam shut with heavy metallic thuds. Sailors spin the locking wheels. Steel dogs screech into place. On the bridge, the helmsman spins the wheel hard to port. The destroyer heels over sharply. The hull shudders. The massive propellers bite into the deep water. White foam churns violently at the stern. The gas turbine engines scream as they spool up to maximum power. The bow rises. The ship carves a massive trench through the swell. It accelerates. The ocean sprays over the missile deck. Gunners' mates rush the external decks. They rip the canvas covers off the heavy machine guns. They rack the charging handles. The ammunition belts rattle into the feed trays. The 5-inch deck gun swivels rapidly. Its barrel locks onto the horizon. The destroyer charges into the dark. 500 hours, 10,000 feet above the West Philippine Sea. The sun begins to bleed over the horizon, painting the clouds in bruised purple and orange. 2 U.S. fighter jets cut through the thin air in tight formation. Their afterburners glow like blue diamonds against the dawn light. Condensation trails stream from their wingtips. The pilots scan the surface radar. The ocean below is a flat, dark expanse broken only by the burning speck of the Outpost. The flight leader dips his wing. He signals the attack run. The jets roll inverted. They dive. The altimeter numbers plummet. Gravity presses the pilots into their seats. The wind roar builds to a deafening shriek. They level off just 50 feet above the waves. The water blurs beneath them. They approach the enemy flotilla at supersonic speed. The sonic boom hits the water like a hammer. It kicks up a wall of spray. The enemy boats react instantly. Turrets spin. Radar dishes lock on. Quad-barreled anti-aircraft cannons erupt. Chains of red tracers stitch the sky. The air fills with exploding flak. The lead jet jinks hard to the left. It flies directly into a wall of lead. A high-explosive shell smashes into the starboard wing. The aluminum tears apart. Hydraulic fluid sprays into the exhaust stream. It ignites. A massive fireball engulfs the fuselage. The wing snaps off completely. The jet enters a violent, uncontrollable spin. It cartwheels through the air. The canopy blows off. The ejection seat rocket fires. The pilot shoots clear just seconds before impact. The jet slams into the ocean. It disintegrates on contact. A geyser of water and burning fuel shoots 300 feet into the air. 5 on 15 hours. Engagement zone. Burning jet fuel spreads across the swells, creating a slick of black fire. The U.S. destroyer plows through the debris field. Charred pieces of the fighter jet bounce off the steel hull. On the bridge, the radar warning receiver screams. It is a continuous, high-pitched wail. The tactical action officer grips the console. He shouts the bearing. The dense fog bank ahead swirls violently. A massive gray bow slices through the mist. The hostile frigate breaks cover. It looms over the smaller attack craft. It turns broadside. The vertical launch doors on the frigate's foredeck snap open. Compressed air hisses. A cruise missile ejects from the tube. It hangs in the air for a split second. The solid rocket booster ignites. A blinding white flash illuminates the dawn. The missile tips over. The main engine kicks in with a thunderous roar. It drops to sea level. It accelerates instantly to high subsonic speed. The water boils beneath its wake. It locks onto the heat signature of the U.S. destroyer. It closes the distance in seconds. It flies straight and true, a flying telephone pole packed with high explosives. 5:17 hours, starboard gun deck, U.S. destroyer. The air crackles with static electricity. The white radar dome of the close-in weapon system swivels violently. Its robotic gears whine as it acquires the target. The incoming missile grows larger by the millisecond. A screaming streak of death against the gray water. Sailors on the bridge brace against the bulkheads. The ship heels over as it continues its hard turn. The 6-barreled rotary cannon roars to life. It emits a deafening, continuous buzzsaw sound that vibrates through the entire hull. A solid stream of tungsten tracers erupts from the barrel. The wall of lead intersects the flight path of the missile. The missile flies directly into the kill box. The rounds shred the aluminum skin. The warhead detonates just 40 meters from the ship. A massive ball of orange fire expands instantly. The shockwave slams into the destroyer. It knocks the lookouts off their feet. Shrapnel and burning debris rain down onto the steel deck. The smell of cordite floods the air intakes. The tactical action officer yells, "Vampire down!" The captain does not hesitate. He points to the weapons console. Batteries released. Fire. On the amidships deck, the blast covers on the angled missile launchers blow off. Thick gray smoke blasts across the superstructure. The anti-ship missiles ignite. They roar out of the tubes with a thunderous whoosh. The rocket boosters kick up a spray of seawater. The missiles shed their boosters and drop low. They skim just feet above the waves, accelerating to high subsonic speeds. They streak toward the enemy frigate, leaving trails of white exhaust hanging in the damp air. 600 hours, 300 feet below the surface. The U.S. fast attack submarine drifts silently through the cold thermocline. Inside the hull, the air is recycled and cool. Red emergency lighting washes over the crew in the control room. They speak in hushed whispers. The only sound is the rhythmic, electronic chirp of the sonar waterfall display. The ocean outside is a crushing black void. The sonar supervisor presses his headphones tight against his ears. His eyes narrow. A sharp, metallic transient spikes on the display. He spins to the officer of the deck. "Con, sonar, torpedo in the water, bearing 090, it's close." The captain's voice snaps the room to attention. "Emergency deep, all ahead flank, deploy countermeasures." The helmsman shoves the yoke forward. The deck angles sharply downward. Plates groan under the increasing pressure. Maps and coffee cups slide across the tables. Outside, the submarine's screw churns the water, creating a massive trail of bubbles. Canisters shoot from the stern. They explode into clouds of bubbles and noise, creating false acoustic targets. The enemy torpedo screams through the water. Its high-pitched sonar ping accelerates. It hunts. It swerves toward a decoy. It detonates. The shockwave hammers the U.S. submarine. The hull rings like a struck bell. Dust shakes loose from the overhead pipes. Sailors grab handholds to stay upright. The captain grips the periscope stand. "Match bearings! Shoot tube 1!" Compressed air blasts. The submarine shudders. The Mark 48 torpedo ejects from the bow. Its engine ignites with a low, throbbing hum. It trails a guidance wire behind it. The weapon speeds through the dark water at 50 knots. It closes the gap. The enemy submarine attempts to turn. It is too slow. The torpedo impacts the enemy hull amidships. The warhead detonates. The explosion rips the pressure hull open. A massive bubble of expanding gas collapses instantly. The ocean rushes in with the force of a freight train. Steel crumples like paper. The enemy sub breaks apart and plummets into the abyss. 645 hours, airspace above the burning outpost. The morning sun cuts through the thick columns of black smoke rising from the reef. The roar of turboshaft engines drowns out the crackle of distant fires. 2 transport helicopters bank sharply around the pillar of smoke. They flare hard, noses pitching up to bleed speed. The rotor wash hits the water, whipping the ocean surface into a frenzy of white foam and spray. The downdraft blasts debris across the ruined deck of the outpost. Thick coils of rope drop from the open cabin doors. They slap against the wet steel plates. Special operations soldiers grab the ropes. They slide down in rapid succession. Gloved hands burn against the nylon. Boots thud heavily onto the deck. They detach instantly. They raise their carbines. They move with fluid, practiced aggression. They stack up against the rusted bulkhead of the main command bunker. The lead breacher slaps a strip of explosive tape onto the heavy iron door. He steps back. He squeezes the detonator. The door blasts inward with a concussive thump. Smoke pours from the jagged frame. A stun grenade arcs through the opening. It detonates. A blinding flash of white light and a deafening bang rock the corridor. The operators flood the room. Laser sights cut through the dust. An enemy fighter stumbles forward, hands covering his ears. 2 shots thump from a suppressed carbine. The fighter drops instantly. Another hostile pops up from behind a desk. He raises a rifle. The point man fires a controlled burst. The rounds punch through the desk wood and strike the target. The enemy spins and crashes into a wall of monitors. Glass shatters. The team moves forward, checking corners. They step over bodies and debris. The team leader sweeps his muzzle across the room. He keys his radio. "Room clear. Secure." It was 7:30 hours, stratosphere above the disputed shoal. The sky is a piercing, endless blue. The air at 30,000 feet is thin and freezing. 2 heavy enemy bombers drone through the clouds. Their massive delta wings cast long shadows over the ocean floor far below. They move with the slow, inevitable weight of freight trains. The bomb bay doors on the lead aircraft groan open. Rows of unguided iron bombs hang suspended in the dark belly, ready to turn the outpost into dust. 4 U.S. carrier-based fighter jets drop from the cloud layer above. They dive like falcons. Their engines scream at maximum thrust. They break the sound barrier. The sonic boom ripples across the water. The flight leader locks his radar onto the lead bomber. A solid tone screams in his headset. He presses the pickle switch on the stick. Fox 2, a heat-seeking missile, tears off the wing rail. The rocket motor ignites with a blinding flash. It leaves a corkscrew trail of white smoke. It accelerates to Mach 3. The bomber pilot reacts. He banks hard to the right. He deploys countermeasures. A shower of magnesium flares ejects from the tail. They burn brighter than the sun, attempting to confuse the missile's seeker head. The missile ignores the decoys. It slams into the starboard engine of the bomber. The explosion shreds the turbine blades. Shrapnel saws through the fuel lines. The wing catches fire. The massive aircraft shudders violently. The structural spar snaps. The entire right wing shears off. The bomber flips over on its back. It enters a flat, unrecoverable spin. It plummets toward the ocean, trailing a thick ribbon of black smoke. The second bomber attempts to jettison its payload and turn back. It is too late. The wingman slides his fighter jet into position behind it. He switches to guns. The rotary cannon in the nose spins up. A stream of 20mm high-explosive rounds erupts. The tracers stitch a line across the bomber's fuselage. They chew through the aluminum skin. The cockpit glass shatters. The tail section disintegrates. The aircraft breaks apart in midair. Debris rains down onto the sea, splashing harmlessly miles away from the outpost. 800 hours, Second Thomas Shoal. The morning sun glares off the oil-slicked water. Black columns of smoke rise vertically into the still air, marking the graves of the enemy flotilla. The horizon is cluttered with debris. The hull of the enemy frigate lists heavily to port. Fire consumes the bridge. The bow slips beneath the surface with a groan of escaping air. Steam hisses as the hot metal hits the sea. It sinks into the deep channel, leaving only a swirl of dirty foam. On the battered deck of the outpost, the silence is heavy. It is broken only by the chopping sound of idling helicopter rotors. Navy corpsmen kneel in the mixture of rust, seawater, and blood. They work with rapid, jerky movements. A medic cuts the pant leg of a wounded Marine. He packs gauze into a shrapnel wound. He twists the windlass of a tourniquet. The bleeding stops. He hangs a saline bag from a twisted piece of rebar. He shouts for a stretcher. 4 Marines grab the handles. They hoist the casualty. They run low underneath the spinning rotors of the medevac helicopter. They slide the wounded man onto the floor of the cabin. The pilot pulls collective. The bird lifts off, banking toward the hospital ship waiting over the horizon. The U.S. destroyer patrols the perimeter of the shoal. Its shadow falls over the reef. The massive 5-inch gun remains trained outward, a steel warning against any return. Sailors line the rails, watching the wreckage drift past. A Marine sergeant climbs the stump of the destroyed communications mast. He pulls a folded flag from his cargo pocket. He shakes it out. He zip-ties the grommets to the jagged metal. The wind catches the fabric. The colors snap taut against the blue sky. The outpost stands.